Have you ever found yourself pulling back from texting someone, wondering what's really going on in their mind? Maybe you stopped texting for a while and then noticed a shift in the energy between you two. We've all been there, uncertain, trying to figure out what the silence really means. As the saying goes, silence speaks louder than words, and when you stop texting, it can say a lot more than you might think. In today's video, we're uncovering exactly what she thinks when you stop texting her, and trust me, it's not always what you expect. Whether you're dealing with mixed signals or trying to understand her true feelings, this video will give you the insights you need to navigate the situation with clarity. Stick around till the end to gain the full perspective and learn how to handle these situations like a pro. When you stop texting, she can't help but wonder if you're losing interest. It's a pretty natural thought, really. Think about it. When you're consistently reaching out to someone, whether it's a friend, partner, or someone you're dating, you start to expect that same energy back. And when it's not there, doubt creeps in. It's almost like a small knot in the stomach that keeps tightening, because silence feels like an absence. The absence of effort. The absence of caring. And no one likes to feel like they're just an afterthought, right? I remember a time when I was dating someone, and we were in that phase where texting was a constant. We'd send each other random thoughts, memes, inside jokes, just this steady flow of communication. But then, out of nowhere, the messages started to slow down. First, it was a few hours here and there, then maybe a full day. And each time, I'd wonder, is something wrong? Did I do something? Am I not interesting enough anymore? It made me second-guess myself, not because I was insecure, but because I genuinely didn't know where I stood. It felt like this vacuum, and in that silence, my mind created 100 different stories. None of them flattering. Psychologically speaking, this is totally normal. When we lose something familiar, like regular communication, it feels like we're losing connection. And that's when insecurity starts to sneak in. It's like how people get anxious when they haven't heard back from someone they care about. They start questioning if they're being ignored or forgotten. But really, it's all about that fear of uncertainty. We crave validation. We want reassurance that things are still good, that the other person still cares. When we stop getting that validation through consistent texting, it leaves room for doubt to grow. But here's the thing, what she's really wondering isn't just about the text. It's about the why behind it. Is it that you're busy? Or is it that you've shifted your focus elsewhere? That's where the problem lies. It's easy to assume the worst when you don't have answers. And in that space of silence, she might feel like she's the one left to pick up the pieces of a conversation that's fizzled out. So, the next time you find yourself going quiet on her, think about what that silence is really saying. Is it saying I'm busy, but I still care? Or is it saying I'm pulling away? If you care about her, a little reassurance can go a long way. It's not just about the text message, it's about making sure she knows where she stands. That's the kind of clarity that keeps things healthy. After all, in relationships, it's not the absence of communication that builds trust, but the intention behind it. When you stop texting, she might feel totally confused or unsure about your feelings. It's like trying to piece together a puzzle when half the pieces are missing. You know that feeling when someone's presence in your life suddenly fades? It's a little unsettling. One minute, everything feels fine, and the next, the silence starts to scream. She might be sitting there, staring at her phone, wondering, what changed? Did something happen? It's almost like this invisible gap appears, and she's left trying to fill it with whatever explanations her mind can come up with. I've been there myself, caught in that space where a relationship or connection was going strong, and then out of nowhere, the communication stops. It's like the person you were talking to every day suddenly becomes a ghost, and you're left wondering what you did wrong. I remember texting a girl I was really into, and for a while, it felt effortless. But then, like clockwork, the messages started slowing down. A few hours here, a whole day there. And I'd find myself overanalyzing each silence. It wasn't just that the texts weren't coming anymore, it was that sudden lack of certainty that left me second-guessing everything. That's what happens when texting stops. She starts questioning the connection. Is he still into me? Did I say something wrong? Am I reading too much into this? It's like a mental tug-of-war. She knows something's shifted, but the absence of clarity makes it so much harder to figure out what's really going on. It's like you're in a room with someone, but they've locked the door, and you have no idea why they left or when they'll come back. Psychologically, this is the exact spot where doubt thrives. When there's no clear communication, the human brain tries to make sense of it, often leaning toward the worst-case scenario. It's almost like we create these mental stories to fill the void, stories that are, more often than not, wrong or exaggerated. I've caught myself doing this countless times, imagining all sorts of scenarios that never happened, just because there wasn't enough clarity to put my mind at ease. What she's really struggling with is that lack of reassurance. It's not just about the texts, it's about whether or not she's truly wanted, truly seen. Without that reassurance, it's hard not to start questioning everything. So, if you care about her, a little honesty goes a long way. A simple "I'm just busy, but I'm thinking about you" can melt away so much of that confusion. In relationships, clarity is like the glue that holds everything together. Without it, even the best connections can start to fray at the edges. When you stop texting, she might start doubting her own worth. It's like this subtle, quiet shift that happens in her mind, even though it's hard to spot on the surface. Maybe at first, she's brushing it off. Maybe she tells herself, he's just busy, or maybe he's going through something. But over time, the silence starts to chip away at her confidence, and soon enough, the thought creeps in, is something wrong with me? I've been there, caught in that uncomfortable space of wondering if I'm enough. There was this one time I had been talking to someone consistently, and things were going great. The energy felt balanced, like we were both excited about what was growing. But then, the texts started slowing down. A day would pass, then two. I tried to brush it off. I told myself it wasn't a big deal. But inside, I couldn't help but question, what changed? Why isn't he texting me like he used to? The silence felt like a judgment. It was like the lack of attention was making me feel less interesting, less valuable. Like I wasn't worthy of his time anymore. And here's where the psychology gets tricky. When someone we care about pulls away, especially without explanation, it can trigger our deepest insecurities. Psychologists call this rejection sensitivity. When we experience a break in communication, especially from someone we like, it often gets interpreted as a form of rejection, even if it's not intentional. Our brains can't help but look for a reason why we're no longer being prioritized, and sometimes, it leads to self-doubt. It's easy to start thinking, maybe I'm just not good enough for him. It's not that she's actually doubting her worth. Deep down, she knows she's worthy. But in those moments of silence, it's hard to separate her sense of value from how she's being treated. The external doesn't match the internal, and that's where the confusion starts. She's left with a lot of unanswered questions, and they all point back to her. If I was worth his time, wouldn't he be reaching out? But here's the thing, your actions, or lack of them, don't determine her worth. That's something she needs to remember, and so do you. The truth is, our value isn't defined by how often someone texts us or how much attention we get. It's internal, rooted in who we are and the love we give to ourselves. Silence can make someone question that worth, but it doesn't change it. If you care about her, be mindful of the impact your actions have. A little communication, even just a simple message, can go a long way in helping her feel seen and appreciated. Because in the end, the most painful thing isn't the silence itself, it's the quiet voice in her head telling her she's not enough. When you stop texting, she might start thinking you're playing games or being distant. And I get it, it's easy to fall into that assumption. After all, no one likes to feel like they're the only one putting in effort, right? It's almost like when someone starts acting cold or aloof, it feels deliberate, like they're testing you. Oh, he's being distant to see if I'll chase him, she might think. And that thought, that gut feeling, can quickly spiral into something bigger. Suddenly, she's not just thinking you're pulling away, she's wondering if you're purposely trying to make her doubt herself or if this is all some kind of power play. I've been on the receiving end of this a few times. There was a phase in my life where I was texting a girl, and it seemed like everything was flowing. We'd talk about everything, what we were doing, our thoughts on random stuff, maybe even our hopes for the future. But then, out of nowhere, the texts started to slow down. And at first, I didn't think much of it. Life happens, right? But then I noticed something. When I texted her, I'd get these long gaps before she'd reply. And then, sometimes, nothing at all. And then the thought hit me, is this some kind of game? I know I've played my own part in this kind of dynamic before, too. There's that temptation to act like you're too busy to respond, just to see how the other person reacts. It's almost like this weird test, where you want to see if they'll keep reaching out or if they'll back off. It's immature, and honestly, it doesn't really get you anywhere. But the thing is, when you start playing these little games, you don't just affect the other person, you affect the entire relationship dynamic. And let's be real, no one likes feeling like they're being played. Psychologically, this taps into something deeper. Humans hate uncertainty. When someone goes quiet without any explanation, our minds automatically try to fill in the gaps. And more often than not, we jump to conclusions. We think, okay, maybe he's playing hard to get, or maybe he's pulling away on purpose. In reality, it might just be that he's genuinely busy or stressed out. But the lack of clear communication can send our minds into a tailspin. Here's the tricky part: if she starts to feel like you're playing games, or worse, that you're being distant on purpose, it's going to hurt. And it's not just about the texts anymore. It's about feeling respected, valued, and seen. Nobody wants to invest time and energy into someone who's just going to keep them at arm's length. It feels manipulative, and trust me, that's a quick way to lose connection. If you're not intentionally playing games, make sure that comes across. A little honesty can clear up so much confusion. Texting less doesn't have to be a game. Sometimes, life gets busy, or you need space. But making that clear will go a long way in showing that you're not trying to play some distant, cold, or manipulative role. Clear communication creates trust, and trust is the foundation of any relationship. So, next time you find yourself going quiet, take a second to check in. It could be the difference between her feeling cared for and respected or feeling like she's just part of some game. When you stop texting, she might start to feel neglected or, worse, like she's unimportant. It's a rough place to be. Imagine giving someone your time, your attention, your energy, and then suddenly feeling like you're the last thing on their mind. It's like being a book that's been set aside, collecting dust on a shelf. And let's be honest, no one likes feeling like they don't matter. I've experienced this on both sides. There was a time I was dating someone, and everything felt great at first. Texts were frequent, fun, and full of energy. But then, out of nowhere, the texting slowed down. First, it was a few hours between replies. Then, it turned into a whole day. And I found myself wondering, did I do something wrong? I thought back on every conversation, trying to pinpoint if I'd said something off or if I'd made a mistake. The uncertainty of the situation left me feeling like I wasn't as important anymore. I wasn't a priority. It was like my messages were being sent into a void, and the silence that came back felt like a subtle form of neglect. Psychologically, this is a common experience. According to attachment theory, people have different needs when it comes to emotional connection. Some need more reassurance than others, while some people are fine with a little space. But when someone we care about pulls back, especially without an explanation, we start feeling like we're not valued. It's like we go from being a priority to an afterthought. And that's tough to swallow. We're wired to seek connection, to feel that we matter to the people in our lives. When that connection is pulled away without any explanation, it hits hard. I remember a particular moment when I felt this kind of neglect. I had been talking to a friend a lot, and one day, without warning, the messages just stopped. For a few days, I convinced myself it was no big deal. But after a while, I began to wonder, does she not care? Am I just a backup option? It wasn't just about the texts anymore, it was about feeling like I wasn't even worth a quick check-in. And that sting is real. It's not just about a phone screen, it's about feeling valued. Feeling seen. Feeling like you matter. The truth is, people often don't mean to neglect others. Life gets in the way, things get busy, emotions shift. But that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt when you're on the receiving end of it. If you care about someone, they should know that they matter. A simple text, a check-in, or even just acknowledging that life is chaotic right now can make all the difference. Neglect doesn't have to be intentional to be felt. But in relationships, a little care, a little reassurance, can make the world of difference. So if you feel like someone's starting to slip away, try to remember that sometimes, all they need is to know that they're still important. Thanks for watching today's video on what goes through your mind when you stop texting. Understanding these emotions can help you communicate more effectively and create healthier relationships. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more relationship tips and insights. Keep growing, keep healing, and we'll see you in the next video.